thank you so much for being willing to do this with me. I know it might seem a little weird, but there's a girl in my study group who swears by this method, and I am a tactile learner, so it makes sense to me that touching the different parts of the body while I say the terms would sink in better than, flashcards or something, so we're gonna give it a whirl. I have my hand sanitizer and my gloves. First, I did want to go over with you again real quick. I know we discussed it on the phone, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. This is going to involve me touching different parts of your body. I have a little graph here. So I'm going to be touching your head, probably your arms, back, legs, maybe. But see this right here? So I'm not going to be touching any sensitive areas. So I might touch your hips, but I'm not going to touch your groin area. I'm not going to touch your butt. I might touch your upper chest or the area just over your heart, but I'm not going to be touching any breast or, chest tissue. So hopefully that's okay. If, of course, at any point I'm touching you and you get uncomfortable with it, then just let me know to pause the session and we'll stop. So, is all that all right? Okay, great. So, let me get sanitized here. I'm very early on in my anatomy class, so this is going to be some pretty basic stuff to start. I've got my textbook right here. Okay, so the quiz I have next week is on orientation and directional terms. And that's basically just being able to talk about different parts of the body and where they are in relationship to each other. It's sort of like the 3D north, east, south, and west of the body, kind of. I'm still learning, obviously. So I figure I'm going to put on my gloves. I'm going to work my way through my whole list of terms here and just be touching you as we go. Alright, so just a moment. Let me get these gloves on. That's one. That's two. Alright, let me get my bookmark out of the way here. So, okay. Okay. I've got a good starting point. To start with, my first two terms are superior or cranial and inferior or caudal. Okay, so superior or cranial means toward the head or upper part of a structure or the body, so up. Okay, so superior. That means that your head is superior to your neck. Your neck is superior to your shoulders. Let's see, your hands are superior to your hips most of the time, right? Okay, so superior. Head superior to the chest. Ears are superior to the elbows. And I'm just gonna go for it. The hips are superior to the knees down here. Okay, great. How are you doing? Okay, so next we have inferior or caudal, and that means away from the head end or toward the lower part of the structure of the body below. Okay, so inferior. That means your chin here is inferior to your nose. Your ears are inferior to your head. I'm trying so hard not to make like a terrible inferiority complex joke, and I want credit for it. Okay, so your shoulders are inferior to your ears. Your hips are inferior to your shoulders. Your ankles are inferior to your knees. Inferior means lower than. Moving on. Okay, so next we have anterior or ventral and posterior or dorsal. Okay, so anterior or ventral means toward the front of the body in relation. So what's a good example? Your nose right here is anterior to the back of your head. Right? Yes. Okay. An example it gives here is that your breastbone here is anterior to your spine. Okay. Your tummy is anterior to the back of your legs. The front of your shoulders, anterior to the back of your shoulders here. Okay. And then, so posterior or dorsal means toward the back of the body or behind. Okay? So, what's a good example? Okay, so your heart, for instance, would be posterior to your breastbone here. Your back of your skull is posterior to your nose. Your spine is posterior to your stomach. And another example would be your back of your knees here. That doesn't tickle, does it? Okay. The back of your knees is posterior to the front of your knees. Your calf muscles here are posterior to your shins. Okay? Posterior. Moving on. Next we have medial and lateral. Medial means toward or at the midline of the body, so on like the inner, more towards the center of the body. So, what's a good example? Your heart is medial to the outside of your arm here. Your nose is medial to your ear. Your nose is also medial to this ear. Your stomach is medial to your hips. Okay? And then lateral is the opposite. It means away from the center of the body, the midline of the body, like more out. So, what's a good example of that? The arms are lateral to the chest. The ears are lateral to the forehead here. Your temples would be lateral to that area between your eyes here. What else? Hips, lateral to stomach. Okay, I think that's a good review of that. Next we have proximal and distal. Okay. This one was a little bit trickier for me, so please be patient, but I think I understand it. So proximal means closer to the origin of the body part, where it connects to the main part of the body. So, for example, proximal. Your elbow would be proximal to your wrist, okay? Because your elbow is closer to where your arm attaches to your body than your wrist. Does that make sense? Your wrist would be proximal to your fingers, okay? So, elbows, proximal to the wrists, shoulders, proximal to the elbows, and hands, proximal to fingertips. Your hips, I believe, would be proximal to your knees. And your knees would be proximal to your ankles down here. And then distal is the opposite. So distal means further away from the point of origin or where it connects to the body. So in this case, your elbow would be distal to your shoulder. Your wrist would be distal to your elbow, right? Yeah, okay. So the example it gives here is that your knees down here are distal to your thighs, which means your ankles would be distal to your knees, and your elbows would be distal to your shoulders. Your wrists would be distal to your elbows. Your hands would be distal to your shoulders and your elbows and your wrists. Okay, I think I got it. Next set. Let's see, do I need to turn the page? Next we have superficial or external and deep or internal. Okay, so superficial or external means more towards the surface of the body. So your skin is superficial to your muscles. Just gonna run my hands up and down your arms here for a second. Your muscles would be superficial to your bones. Let's see, your forehead here is superficial to your skull and your brain. Your ears, also superficial to your brain. The muscles of your legs here are superficial to the bones of your legs. Okay. Got it. And then deep or internal is the opposite. It means away from the surface of the body, which is more internal. Okay. So the example it gives here is that you're just gonna tap the top of your chest here. Your lungs are deep to your breastbone. Your brain is deep to your skull. Your brain is deep to your ears here. Your hip bones are deep to the skin and the muscles of your hips. Okay, I think I got it. And then my last two sets of terms are ipsilateral and contralateral, okay? And ipsilateral just means on the same side. So your left shoulder here is ipsilateral with your left hip. Your left ear and your left elbow are ipsilateral. Your right temple. Your right temple and your right cheek are ipsilateral. Your right ear here and your right elbow are ipsilateral. Your right shoulder here and your right hip, ipsilateral. Your left shoulder and your left hip, you guessed it, ipsilateral. Okay. I think I have a better grip on it than I realized. This is super helpful. Thank you. So, maybe if it's all right with you, can I just run through everything again real quick? I won't spend quite as much time on everything. Okay, thank you. So, we have superior and inferior. Superior meaning toward the upper part. Okay, so head superior to shoulders. Ears are superior to elbows. Your chest here is superior to your tummy. Your hips superior to your knees. Okay, and then inferior means below. Okay, so your ears are inferior to top of your head. Your chin here is inferior to your nose. Your elbows are inferior to your shoulders. Your knees, I'm going for the knees. Your knees are inferior to your hips and to your shoulders and to the top of your head. Okay. Anterior toward the front of the body. Okay. So your nose is anterior to the back of your head. Your breastbone here is anterior to your spine. Your abdomen here is anterior to your intestines. Your thighs, front of your thighs here, are anterior to the backs of your knees. Okay, and then posterior toward the back. Okay, so ears are posterior to the nose, right? Yes. Okay. Your spine is anterior to your breastbone. Your spine, gonna get the lower spine this time, also anterior to your abdomen. I'm gonna grab your calf muscles here. Your calf muscles are anterior to your knees. Okay. Medial is toward the midline. Okay, so your beautiful heart here is medial to your shoulders. Your nose is medial, right? Yes, your nose is medial to your ears. You're between your third eye area. That's not a medical term, don't tell them I use that. But this area right here is medial to your temples. Okay. I think I got it. And then lateral, the opposite. It's away from the midline, okay? So your shoulders here are lateral to your upper chest here, your breastbone. Your ears are lateral to your nose, your temples, also lateral to your nose, and let's see. I think that's good for that term. Then we have proximal and distal. That's the one I find tricky for some reason. Okay, so proximal is closer to the origin point where the limb joins the body, okay? So your shoulders are proximal to your elbows, right? Yes. Okay. Your elbows are proximal to your wrists. Your shoulders are proximal to your wrists. Your hands are proximal. Did I get that right? Shoot. Closer. Okay, so shoulders proximal to elbows. Elbows proximal to wrists. Shoulders proximal to wrists. Wrists proximal to fingertips. Okay, I think I got it. And then distal is the opposite, so it's further away. So your fingertips are distal to your wrists. Okay. Your elbows distal to your shoulders. Gonna move down to your legs. Your knees here are distal to your hips. And your ankles are distal to your knees. Okay. I think I got it. Next we have superficial and deep. Superficial is toward the surface of the body, right? Yeah. So your skin all over is superficial to your muscles, right? Okay. The muscles of your upper arms here are superficial to the bones of your upper arms. The skin of your hips is superficial to the hip bones. Okay, and then deep is away from the surface of the body, more internal. Okay, so the muscles of your forehead here are deep to the skin, right? Okay, so all of your organs, like your, most of your organs, are going to be deep to the muscles in the skin. So like your heart here is deep to your chest muscles. Your heart is also deep to your breastbone and your skin. The muscles in your hands here are deep to the skin of your hands. Let's get the legs for good measure. Your knee bones are deep to the skin on your knees here. All right, I think I got it. Then we have ipsilateral and contralateral. Ipsilateral being on the same side, so your ear on the right side, sorry, this is your left. Your ear on the left side is ipsilateral with your shoulder on the left side. Your temple on the right side is ipsilateral with your ear on the right side. Your ear on the left side and your left hip here are ipsilateral. Your right temple and your right knee down here are ipsilateral. Awesome. Okay, and then contralateral, opposite side. So your left ear and your right elbow here are contralateral. Your left ear and your right ear are contralateral. Your right temple here and your left hip, contralateral. Getting back down to the legs. Your left hip here and your right knee, contralateral. This cheek on your left side and the cheek on your right side are contralateral. Wow. That went so much better than I thought it was going to. You're amazing. Thank you. This was super helpful. I have my quiz next week. I feel like this went really well. If you're comfortable with it and if you don't mind, the week after that I have a quiz on, I think, the bones of the skull and face. So maybe we could do the same thing with that. It might be a little more involved and specific, and it would involve me touching your face and head a lot. But if you're down, I would super appreciate being able to do this again and as many times through this semester as you're willing to. So yeah, let me take you out to lunch because you are so good to me and I really appreciate this help. And we can maybe make plans for preparing for the next quiz. Okay? All right. Again, thank you so much.